what really happened? I mean, one can guess that there might not be any kind of convictions, but there was some kind of indictment. But you are a senior lawyer. Explain to us the stories or the issues Bola Tinubu had in relation to first narcotics and that of money laundering.
Well, thank you, Aishewu. This is all a storm in a teacup, nothing more than that. The issue is not a new issue. So let me first of all say that. You saw some blogs or some news sites, online sites, making those normal wild introductions like breaking news, just in, fresh facts. No. Those are not fresh facts. They are not new issues. These issues have been in the public domain for more than 20 years, and the issues have been sufficiently addressed and dismissed. Being here today really is out of deference to perhaps younger voters who may think that these are new issues, and out of respect, you know, for Nigerians generally, to come and further explain, really. But if you ask me, months preceding the re-election of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu as governor of Lagos State, there were several petitions from even within his own party, the Alliance for Democracy. So the screening committee at that time, you know, had to raise alarm to the party that, well, they didn't want to put the ticket of the AD in Lagos State in danger, because they were scared that perhaps many of those petitions that were written against Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu may have some substance. And there were these allegations, like you have said. This was, of course, like, you know, nearly 20 years ago. There were these same allegations, nothing more than that. These same papers were obtained. These same papers were submitted to the AD screening committee. And so the chairman of the AD, Alliance for Democracy at that time, I think Prince Ogunleye, was forced to write to the CP, then Arabame, CP Lagos, then the later Arabame, and say, look, can you get in touch with your colleagues in the US, the law enforcement agencies, and tell us whether there's any truth in these petitions, so that they didn't want to, they wanted to determine whether to give Asiwaju the ticket again, the second-term ticket to run as governor of Lagos State. And so it was his own party, out of, you know, pure altruistic motive. They wanted to get to the truth of the matter. The then Arabame, the later Arabame, now CP then, escalated the matter to the IG, Lagos, then Tafa Balogun, who is also now late. Tafa Balogun, at his level of the IG of police, now wrote an official letter to the United States through the embassy in Lagos to say, can you give us a response, the Nigerian government, a response as to whether Asiwaju was involved in any of such, you know, issues. There was, therefore, you know, sometime investigation. They contacted the FBI in the United States. And then the FBI, you know, supplied the information to the embassy in Lagos. And then the Michael Bonnet wrote back to the Inspector General of Police, Tafa Balogun, and said, look, we have official confirmation from the United States that there was no criminal indictment, no conviction, no criminal charge against Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But then let me go back, really, like you mentioned, to what happened. Because there was a case. Papers are flying up and down. And at this point in time, even though we have confirmed there's no conviction, even though we have confirmed he's fit to run for office, even though we have confirmed that he has met all the constitutional requirements to run for office. But there are papers, after all. They are certified through copies. Now, the dates on the papers mentioned, the papers are flying up and down. The date of the certification is 2022. So they are using this to confuse people that these are fresh papers coming from the United States. They are putting a stamp of the day those documents are certified. So they are not fresh documents. It's just the stamp of certification to confirm that you have just requested for them. Now, so this is what the detractors and the PDP and these people, perhaps that's what they went to the US for, when they pretended that they went to for high-level engagement. This is part of the high-level engagements they went for, just to go and, you know, deceive Nigerians and bring out washed-out papers that are totally dead as dodo. They brought them back to Nigerians, and they said freshly issued court papers in the US. They are not freshly issued. They have just been certified by the US court. But then go into those documents. Let's go into those documents. What happened? Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was not even a defendant in that case. That will shock you, right? It will shock you. But go back to the documents. It was an action in rem, not an action in personam. For those who are law students or who are non-lawyers, let me explain. An action in rem is an action where you proceed against properties, not against the person. So what they did at that time was that they proceeded against certain accounts. And those accounts bore companies that were linked to Bola Tinubu or the ones personally held by him. Those accounts were 10 accounts in 3 banks. 10 accounts, let me repeat. 10 different accounts in 3 different banks. More, accounts legitimately opened by him, opened, in normal procedure by him. They didn't find any problem with that. And there were funds that he kept saving, where he was keeping his savings in the US. So, as I speak with you, if you look at those documents too, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu was not mentioned as a defendant. They've skipped that. It was only account numbers that were mentioned, and at the end of the day, they just said account numbers in the name of Tinubu. That is all. Not that Tinubu was a defendant. It was accounts in his name, not him. Those accounts were sued, not him. It was action in rem. So there is no charge. There was no charge. There was no indictment. There was no criminal process. It was a civil, purely civil process against those accounts. But then what happened against those accounts? Now, there was an affidavit by somebody called Kevin Moss. Kevin Moss is just a normal prosecutor you see. The Kevin Moss, all those the positions you see there about narcotics and all that, it was not a judgment of the court. It was an opinion of a prosecutor trying to convince the court to issue a forfeiture order. So nobody should see those positions that begin to shout, hey, US have done this, or US have said this, or no. It was not an opinion of a court. It was not an opinion of an institution. It was just the opinion of a prosecutor trying to convince the court to issue a forfeiture order.
Yeah, you said that to ask you some very quick questions. First and foremost, were the account numbers involved that of Bola Tinubu?
Yes, not only him, companies were linked to, and his relatives. People should take note of that. His relatives.
All right.
Including his mother, including his aged mother, that Elijah Mogaji. So what do you want to do? You want to link her to what?
I said, just a moment. Just a moment, Senior Advocate. I said I have quick questions, and I like you because it's the background to the next questions. I mean, the series of questions I'm going to ask you. Did Bola Tinubu contest or concede ownership of the account numbers?
He did not. He actually owned up to them at a point when they were calling him on phone. If you look at the affidavit of Kevin Moss, perhaps he skipped 1 or 2 accounts who were in the UK, because normally, like we do in the EFCC, they will first of all ask for your disclosure of all your properties and accounts once you are brought in. It's a standard procedure. They will ask for it. So they found monies in his accounts. They said, well, they needed to come forward. And in that affidavit of Kevin Moss, they said they interviewed Mobile. Mobile said, yes, this man is a treasurer in the Mobile. But they said, no, those funds are not from them. But they confirmed his status, not as a criminal, but as a respectable employee of Mobile. It is in the affidavit of Kevin Moss. Now, after all the rigmarole, look at paragraph 38 of the affidavit by Kevin Moss. I want everybody to look at paragraph 38. After the rigmarole of trying to find out whether there are things, the accounts, the money, where the monies came from, whether they were linked to drug and all of that, it was all speculative. They came to the conclusion that the proceeds he got from the tax, the deposit he made there what they call, what these bankers normally call investments. He kept the money there and he was getting profit on the interest. They said he had not paid tax on those interests. That is all. And guess what? The banks are supposed to deduct the tax from source. I have done investments before. When you put money in banks, when you go and collect your interest at the end of the month, they will pay you minus the tax. They will refund the tax to the federal government. So it was not like a deliberate act.
Mr. Keyamo, if I may quickly ask you, and I have very short questions also.
Yes.
Would you liken the settlement that Bola Tinubu had with the court in the United States at the time over these monies as a sort of a plea bargain?
No. A plea bargain, you cannot build something on nothing and expect it to stand. A plea bargain must arise out of a criminal charge. Like I said, there's no charge, nothing anywhere, nothing like a charge anywhere. All he did, in fact, if you look at that, let me just refer you to it. This is for just a moment.
You established
this is for 30 seconds.
That there was a forfeiture. Just for a moment. You established that there was a forfeiture. But if there was a forfeiture that was made, and that kind of forfeiture is still subsisting, and it has a criminal nature, that has not been set aside up to date.
No. A forfeiture, you see, that's why I said you should take a paper and a biro. This is a lecture class for you. A forfeiture is not something hanging on your neck. It's a permanent settlement, and everybody will shake your hands and go your way. Now, look at that settlement signed by the counsel to Asiwaju then and the counsel to the state, to the United States. I want you to look at paragraph 6, page 2 of that settlement. I refer you again, paragraph 6, page 2 of the settlement signed. In that paragraph 6, they were even begging Asiwaju. They said that, look, please don't proceed against us again. This is a final settlement between us. Go your way, we go our way. Out of the 10 accounts, it was only one account, the one in Heritage Bank, that they took $460,000 as their tax on his interest, as tax on interest, that he benefited from the deposits he made, that the investments he made in those accounts. And they gave him 9 accounts. In fact, all the monies in Heritage Bank was not taken. They took only 460, calculated as a tax, and said, please go your way. Now, I want you to look at that paragraph 6. They were begging him.
Has he given a satisfactory explanation of the source of the funds?
You know, it happens to all of us, Nigerians. You go to a new land, you go to a new place abroad. Any Nigerian you see, especially from your own tribe, they become like brothers to you. You associate with them, you visit them. You may do 1 or 2 transactions. You may not exactly know what they are involved in. You may not know what they are involved in. It happens to all of us. And you can see that the whole of that investigation actually touched on 2 or 3 Nigerians. So let me admit that. That had nothing to do with Asiwaju. And I don't want to mention their names here. People should go and read it, because they have families in Nigeria. The other Nigerians, two of them, who were actually linked to narcotics. One of them was actually arrested. That one made confessional statements and confessed another Nigerian as the one involved. But that principal suspect, read that affidavit, never mentioned the name of Asiwaju. What happened? Asiwaju went to open an account. The address by which he opened the account was an address already, used by these people. I think some block of flats. Maybe he happened to be in that block of flats too. So they now linked it to say, oh, well, these other people they were investigating for narcotics, they are in the same address used by Asiwaju to open that account. So that is what is there. I cannot deviate from it. They also said, after I opened the account, after some time, I wanted to explain. Can I go on?
Yeah, because he's in line. What I'm going to ask you is in line with what you were saying.
Yeah, so because I want to be honest.
Aware, because the version of the story,
I want to be honest. That's why I'm going along with it and explain it.
Just a moment. Let me put the question so that you can put it together.
Yes.
The version of the story you're saying tonight, and for those who are a bit more privy to what really happened, there are allegations, and I don't know if you are aware, that your principal was a member of a drug cartel for which is said to, in fact, they say he was a treasurer. And I was asking you about the source because this is going to premise the question I'm going to ask next. So I'd like you to also be careful in the answer so that my next question might be favorably answered too. Go ahead, please.
Thank you so much. Please do not deviate from the affidavit. I want everybody to fact check the 2 of us. They never mentioned him as the treasurer. They said he was treasurer of Mobile. They never said he was treasurer of any narcotics group. What they said was that he was found to have worked for an organization, owned by the people they were investigating. That he worked for that organization, that distribution organization. he worked for them, without going into details, without having any proof of it. I'm very careful about the phrase that was used in that affidavit by Kevin Moss. Because you see, with a trained eye and the trained eye of a prosecutor, I read every line one by one. I've done this more than 10 years ago and came to the conclusion that Shiwaju had nothing to do with this. Because I read this more than 10 years ago. So I read it with a trained eye. So that is the phrase. If a prosecutor is looking for something to nail him, you have to go to that particular paragraph that now links Asiwaju. After they went all the rigmarole of investigating those two individuals, Nigerian, they now came to the point of Asiwaju. They now came to the point that where they now found out that part of the friends, relatives, that's what they use, friends and relatives, who worked for that organization owned by these people was somebody known as Asiwaju. That is all, that Tinubu. That's how they came to that. That's how they came to link him. Normally, they do that as a sweeping investigation. Yeah. Let me explain to you, because as a prosecutor, you do that in a sweeping manner. When you are investigating a crime, anybody linked in terms of transfer of funds to and fro from the person's account to your account, as a standard procedure, they will investigate everybody who paid money into and withdrew money from that account. It's standard procedure. But after all of it, they will now let me
then push this here. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Senior Advocate, let me refer you to Section 137 of the Constitution 1D, subsection 1D, which says that a person under a sentence of imprisonment or fine for any offense involving dishonesty or fraud by whatever name it's called, or for any other offenses imposed on him by any court or tribunal shall not be qualified to contest for the office of the President of Nigeria. In view of the forfeiture and the settlement that Bola Tinubu had in the United States, as a senior advocate of Nigeria, what are the legal implications of that circumstance, considering the Section 137, subsection 1D of the Constitution?
Well, forfeiture is not a fine, you know. I don't want to refer to you again. When I say I'm educating, this is like a class we are having. But I don't, for all those who think, for law students everywhere, who think forfeiture is a fine. Fine is a punishment. Fine is a consequence of a conviction. Fine is a consequence of a criminal trial. So fine has nothing to do with forfeiture. Forfeiture is a civil process. It's a complete civil process to say, well, we are not even going into trial at all. The state goes into forfeiture proceedings with individuals just for the purpose of getting their monies. It does not mean you have committed a crime. You may have not fulfilled your obligation as a citizen regarding financial payment, just like tax. You have, at that point, he had not fulfilled his financial obligations regarding the deposits that were made there and the interest on those deposits. And so they say, well, you know what? Out of these 10 accounts, we are going to take our interest. And you know, for them, tax is oil, is their oil. All over Europe and America, don't play with their tax. So they all say, well, we are going to take our tax because you deposited money here, you were taking interest on it, you've not paid tax on those interests. So if you look at paragraph 38, that is the crux of the whole thing. So it is not, that constitution you cited, Shehu, is completely, totally inapplicable. It has nothing to do with forfeiture. It has nothing to do with that. Nothing.
That's your perspective. But let me allow you
No, that is the law. That is the law. It's not my perspective. It was just accounts that were sued, not him. Accounts in his name that were sued. So how could you indict him if there was no account? Then secondly,
how many accounts are we talking about?
10 accounts.
How many accounts are we talking about?
10 accounts in 3 banks. In 3 banks. In 3 banks.
In one person's name. How modern?
No, not in one person. Not in one person. They were once linked to his mother.
I just asked you how many accounts belonging here.
He took responsibility for all of them because they were all Tinubu family and all that. His mother was there, his companies were there, his brother was there. He just took responsibility for all of them. And at the end of the day, they now pleaded with...